Jessica, good to see you. Welcome back to the show, albeit in a very different position.
Yeah, it's exciting. I was enjoying retirement, but I'm back. Gavin Newsom has brought me back in, and we're out here in California making sure that we don't gerrymander the entire state. I mean, we're old enough to remember when gerrymandering was a bad word, and Gavin Newsom's out here wearing it like a badge of honor.
Okay, so let's just before we get into the politics of it, give me the lay of the land. Like California, just give us the timeline. California voters passed an amendment that said that there was an independent commission, and then what happened? So what's the current law, and where are we now, and what's the timeline look like?
Here in California, we have the Citizens Redistricting Commission. And in 2008, the California voters decided to make the Citizens Redistricting Commission to draw the lines for our legislative districts. They believe that that power should not reside with politicians in Sacramento choosing their constituents, but rather with the people. In 2010, there was a second statewide ballot initiative where the voters decided to include Congress in that as well. So our Citizens Redistricting Commission has now gone through two drawings of maps. The last one was in 2021. Those are the districts that we are currently in. Gavin Newsom has decided that he would like to change the way that California looks. As you know, Sean, while I was chair of the California Republican Party, we worked really hard to build up Republicans here in California. In 2020 and 2022, we picked up 5 House seats. We secured the House majority for Speaker McCarthy. We registered over 1 million new Republicans here in California. Every single legislative district, every single congressional district, every single county in our state moved to the right. We've had an 89% success rate on statewide ballot initiatives where California voters were with the California Republican Party's position. Gavin Newsom understands that California voters know what he's up to. They are losing control up there in Sacramento, and this is a Sacramento power grab at its finest.
Okay, so on November 4th, I live in Virginia, when we vote, when New York City votes, and when New Jersey voters, you guys will vote too, right?
Correct.
Okay, so let's just get through a couple of the logistics here. When it passed the first time, this California Redistricting Commission in 2010, what was the vote of Californians to support this commission?
It was overwhelmingly supported by about 63%.
Okay, so 63%, but that was 15 years ago. So who knows? But obviously that was very clear. And so what, just again, for clarity purposes, what Newsom and the California legislature passed was an effort to say, we're going to disregard that and so give us voters permission this November to redraw the maps politically, despite the fact that you voted for this in the past, right?
Right. And the maps are already drawn. We've already seen the map. So it's not a question of how bad it will look. We know how bad it will look. We currently have 9 congressional members of the 52 congressional members in our state. You'll have to remember, for the first time in California state history, the last reapportionment, we lost a congressional district because more people were leaving our states and going to redder pastures around the country than were coming in. We are currently on track to lose 4 additional seats in the next reapportionment. So he took those 9 congressional seats and brought us down to essentially 4. And what he's also done, we have about 5 additional congressional seats right now that we would normally play in. So the high water mark would probably be about 14 seats. But he has turned all of those into deep blue seats. When you've got a district like Modoc, that includes something like Modoc County, which is one of the most remote and poorest counties in our state, that is in the same district as Marin County in the Bay Area, which is one of the most urban and wealthiest counties probably in the country. And you have the same congressional member that is supposed to be representing both of those areas. There's someone that's going to be left out. There are people whose voices will not be heard in Washington, D.C. because of this massive partisan gerrymandering that Gavin Newsom and his cronies have done.
All right, I hate to interrupt this conversation, but tonight, if you are looking for a great night's sleep, I'm going to help you big time. I switched over to Boll & Branch sheets, and my goodness, they have made a huge difference. They are so comfortable to get into every night. I love them so much. I literally ordered a second pair the other night and paid for them myself. That's how great these things are. And you can join me as well. The thread count, the quality is unbelievable. There's a 30-day guarantee, so you literally have nothing to lose. If you want a better night's sleep, it starts with your bedding. Go to bollandbranch.com/Spicer to save 15%. That's BOLLAND branch.com/Spicer for 15% off and free shipping. bollandbranch.com/Spicer for a great night's sleep. All right, back to the conversation. It's not time to go to sleep just yet. So best estimation is right now you guys would lose 5 Republican seats and then not be able to compete for any of the other ones because he's made them blue. True?
Yeah, there's about, I would say, one congressional district that I would consider a swing after the gerrymandering.
Okay, so who, just to give us a sense of some names, like I know Kevin Kiley's been one of them. Daryl Issa, where does he sit on this? Who are the 5 that would lose their seats?
Right, so Kiley and LaMalfa are drawn out to the ocean. Those seats are both gone. David Valadeo, who is in the heart of the Central Valley, his district gets a lot more blue, would be very difficult to win. Congressman Calvert and Congresswoman Kim are drawn into the same district. And then Congressman Daryl Issa is drawn into a district that I would consider a swing district, but Kamala Harris certainly won it. You have to also remember, Sean, last year in 2024, California Democrats spent $146 million on those targeted seats that we're talking about. So if they win this in November, they stand to save about $500 million in the 26, 28, and 2030 election cycles.
That's real. Yeah. And I want to get into the money in a second, but let me just start with a straw man argument, which is the following. Texas went ahead and redistricted mid-cycle. They're getting 5 additional seats. And so if you hear Newsom and the left say, well, why can't we do it here in California? Why is it any different for us? What's your answer?
Well, I think that they're 2 totally different things. And I think it's something that the media has really been missing. Texas is redrawing their congressional district lines because the Department of Justice sent them a letter because they were in violation of the Voting Rights Act and the 14th Amendment. Here in California, our Citizens Redistricting Commission takes the Voting Rights Act and the 14th Amendment incredibly seriously. In fact, that's one of the first things that they look at. They want to make sure that communities of interest and minority communities have representation both in Sacramento and Washington, D.C. And that's why California has some of the most diverse delegations of the entire country. So it's 2 totally different things. They are doing it to fix a problem. We are doing it for complete partisan reasons.
Yeah, it's funny. We had Harmony Dillon on the show and talks about this case all the time. But I will say this, because as I'm listening to you, Jessica, I was thinking about this. The way you're describing it, it's actually beyond that even more interesting. Take the case away for a second in terms of the reason that Texas did it. I believe that Texas can make an argument that they are actually updating their representation, meaning they're actually drawing more Republican seats because the state is becoming more Republican and it's aligning to the people they represent. Whereas what Gavin Newsom's doing in California is actually the opposite, to your point. Like, he's actually reducing, as the state, under your leadership got more Republican in each of these counties and legislative districts, he's actually rolling back representation, which is kind of an interesting dynamic. It's actually completely the opposite of what Texas is doing.
Right. And when we lost a congressional district in that 2021 census, it ended up being a Democrat seat. So they lost 6 seats when we picked up 5. In Nancy Pelosi's home state, right? And what we see for the 2030-2031 reapportionment is that we will likely lose more Democrat seats in that time.
So let's talk about the money and the messaging for a second. What is it that you think it's going to cost to run a successful Prop 50 campaign?
Yeah, so it's an incredibly expensive endeavor here in California to run a statewide proposition. You know this, we have 2 of the most expensive media markets in the country. So generally speaking, you're looking at about $100 million that can be spent on each side. And the DCCC has already said that they're committed to doing that. So we're working incredibly hard. There's a couple of different paths Charles Munger Jr., who was the major proponent of the first two propositions in '08 and 10, he is protecting the what I would call the good government coalition, and he is really focused on that. And our job at Stop Sacramento's Power Grab, No on Prop 50, is we're going to be handling that right of center coalition. So it does cost a lot of money to run propositions here in California, but we're going to do everything that we can to protect our state and fight for it, because that's why we stay here.
So is that Charles Munger group the group that Arnold Schwarzenegger, the former governor, is he on that, in part of that group?
So I would say that Governor Schwarzenegger, and I used to work for him, he has always been kind of his own independent person. I think that if there was a place for him, it would certainly be in that good government coalition, because he's, bucked both parties. And he's always brought his own independent flair. He has always brought the glitz and the glamour to everything. So he's kind of in his own lane. And that's he brings a lot of people into that lane. But I think that you'll see him as a great messenger in that good government side of things.
So the combined groups, yours and him, is that $100 million all in or for each?
I think it would be $100 million all in. And we're working really hard every day to raise that money, because it is an expensive endeavor to make sure we get our message out. The good news is we start from a position of strength. You probably saw the Politico poll just 2 weeks ago. 63% of Californians want to keep the Citizens Redistricting Commission. Every single poll that the Democrats seem to put out there, they're not really coming from a place of strength. When you start a yes on campaign, you want to start somewhere in the mid 60s. Their first poll had them at 52%. And when you looked at strong support versus soft support, they were down around 33%. Our job still is to make sure that our voters are educated and that we turn them out.
So if you get 50 plus 1 on this ballot, so people are voting yes on 50 or no on 50?
No on 50.
Okay, so no on 50. If 50% plus 1, you guys win, right? So so there's no threshold they have to meet, like
No.
super majority or anything like that. Okay. And if they do it, it automatically happens then, right?
If they pass
it, then automatically those maps.
and those maps go into effect. I'm sure
if
there will be some sort of legal, maneuvering following it, if they were able to pass this. But I think California voters are really smart. And I think at the end of the day, we're going to have it. And as I mentioned, with our statewide ballot initiatives, California voters have been with the conservative position in the last cycle 89% of the time. They know what Sacramento has done to our beautiful state. And they're with us when it comes to common sense things like partisan gerrymandering.
So is the other side, the Gavin Newsom side, are they raising $100 million of their own?
Yeah, so the Democrats are committed to being around that number, and we've already seen transfers from Washington D.C. and other elite millionaires and 100 millionaires sending their money to their cause. So we're going to have to work on this. A lot of it will be grassroots, but also a lot of our big donors will have to be engaged on this to make sure that we hold on to these seats. The House majority has always ran through California.
Right. I mean, that's what I'm worried about. If they win this thing, then we're at best back to square one. But to your point, then we take a lot of other. I guess what I'm getting at is, it seems to me, between all this money that's being spent, plus, to your point, if you shore up those other blue seats that he did in these new maps, it seems like this is real money that could affect other races, throughout the country, because donors. Money is fungible. So if you're not spending it in California, you could spend it in Missouri or New York or Florida or wherever.
You're never going to get the landscape that we have here in California, where there's so many competitive seats. And the Citizens Redistricting Commission allows us to do that. They take into consideration the demographics of each part of our state. As you know, we have an incredibly diverse state. Some would even say, we're multiple states. Where the inland portion of our state is incredibly Republican and that coastal portion is very blue. So when you will never get that type of landscape, because you just don't have that type of demographics anywhere else in the country. So with us, we need to protect these seats.
Okay, so this is going to be a low turnout race, right? Because it's you're just voting on propositions. So what's the message right now? I guess let's start with this before I get to the actual messaging on this. Are you guys Prop 50 because there's 49 things before you, or is that just a number that you wanted?
So we didn't want any of this, Sean. Like, we would not be here if Gavin Newsom wasn't doing this. And this is the Democrat legislature. They chose the number.
So are there, what else is on the ballot?
It's literally a special election for this proposition only.
They named it 50?
Yes.
Why? Because they 50 states?
I have no idea.
So like if you're a California voter, the only reason you'll go to on November 4th to vote is because of this.
Yes.
Okay. So, and you guys, do you have early and mail-in voting that would be part of this?
We're all mail-in. And
all mail-in?
We have all mail-in, and we have vote centers around our state. So this is going to be a turnout trail. You have to remember when we did the recall back in 2021, we had like above 50% turnout. It was rather high. So, people are paying attention. They know every time Sacramento gets their hands on some power, they go and you give a mouse a cookie, they're going to want a glass of milk. And they are constantly going for more. They never relinquish that power. We see this with the congressional seats. The next thing they'll be doing is drawing their assembly seats. Just yesterday, we had a lawsuit that was dropped out in the media about a former staffer of the current Speaker of the Assembly, who talked about the corruption that was going on with the Speaker of the Assembly, including when it came to Prop 50, because he wanted to draw a congressional district that he could run in. This is power and corruption at its highest levels. And you're going to see more about this coming out over the next several weeks. California voters need to stay smart and keep the power with the people and not with politicians.
Right. Jessica, let me ask you this. What is give me if you're a California voter, give me as objectively as you can, what's the message that you want to send to them to motivate somebody to go out and vote on this? And what's the Gavin Newsom side saying? Let's just start with the Gavin Newsom side. Are they just saying, hey, Texas did it, play your part in trying to take a House majority?
They're going to save democracy. That is what they are saying. Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So what's your side saying?
Our side is that this power resides with the people. Every single time we give power to Sacramento, they fail us, whether it's our children's schools, the homeless crisis, affordability, education, public safety. California Democrats in Sacramento have failed us. We give them this power, they will fail us again.
Okay. I want to ask you one more question that has nothing to do with redistricting. Bill Pulte, the federal housing director, has been exposing Democrats who have mortgage fraud. Lisa Cook, the Fed Gov, Tish James, the New York Attorney General. But I believe that Adam Schiff is also committing electoral fraud because the Constitution requires him to live in the state of California. He has signed a document saying his primary residence is in Maryland. Is there an interest among California voters to make the case that he cannot legally represent them because he is claiming his primary residence is in Maryland?
I mean, I think that is kind of a no-brainer. We went through this with our senator who was appointed by Governor Newsom. And I think that this is something that is important to Californians. We have to put up with the high costs of living here. Sending our kids to schools that are subpar, walking down the street and visibly seeing the homeless crisis, the crime that fortunately California's voted for Prop 36 in the last cycle. So I think this is something that is really important to Californians. We want someone that's representing us in Washington, D.C. that has to live the life that we live here in California and has to go through the same types of struggles that we go through as Californians. So I think it's something that would be really appealing to Californians.
Good. All right. Well, let's check back in as this race gets closer, because I think this is literally the balance of power is in the hands of this ballot initiative in terms of the majority, Republican majority in Congress. So best of luck. Stay in touch with us as we get closer to November 4th.
Sounds great. Always great to be with you, Sean.
Hey, by the way, for people who, if they want to help, where do they go to give you money?
Go to stop50.org. Stop50.org.
Stop50.org. All right, Jessica Millan Patterson, thanks a lot. And stop50.org is our site to go to today. Thank you very much. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.